Hello, welcome to another video. In this video I am just going to cover some low waste tips that are not going to cost you any money or really take any effort or energy from your life. They're things that you can start doing today or at the end of this video even that will make a huge difference to the environment. I don't really have a lot to say for an introduction about this, so I suppose I'm just going to jump right into it. So the first tip that I have for achieving a more low waste lifestyle without spending any money is to reassess your need for a plastic bag. Now I know that this is a very talked about thing at the moment. A lot of supermarkets are eradicating plastic bags or charging for them instead and not just having them there for anyone to take, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, I think our general use of plastic bags is still quite excessive. In the supermarket setting, we've managed to eliminate it quite a bit. When we're checking out and taking our groceries, people buy the green cloth bags or they bring their own bags, and that's fantastic. But there are a lot of other scenarios in our day-to-day life where we're offered plastic bags and perhaps it doesn't really occur to us to decline that. So I'm talking about takeaway food, for example. When you order something from Charcoal Chicken and they give it to you in a plastic bag, when it is already in a container, you could very easily say when you're ordering, would you mind not popping it in a plastic bag at the end? And you don't need to feel ashamed about that either. A lot of people do really appreciate it, actually. Another example of this is when you're going shopping for clothes, for example. I always take my own backpack with a couple of tote bags in there, and it makes me sound super lame, but it does feel so much better when you buy a new pair of pants or something and you say to them, oh, don't worry about a bag, and you pull your own one out and pop them in there, because your wardrobe and your fashion shouldn't come at the expense of the environment. Which actually brings me into my next tip, which is to slow down your wardrobe. The fashion industry is massively taken up by fast fashion. And fast fashion is pretty much entirely defined and dependent on the concept of planned obsolescence. So this is an economic strategy where a product is intentionally made with a short lifespan to encourage ongoing consumption of the product. So essentially, most companies in the fashion industry are making really low cost products and really low quality products so that after a very short amount of time they start to fall apart or they fade or they get holes in it. I read somewhere that the average low cost shirt is made to only last 30 washes, which means that if you wear and wash that shirt once a week, it's going to last you just over half a year, which doesn't sound too bad, but when you times that by several million people in the world, that is a massive scale. And if we're throwing out that many shirts every 6 months times the amount of shirts you have in your wardrobe, it's a huge amount of waste and a huge impact on our environment. So I encourage you to have a look in your wardrobe, see what's there, see what things you actually genuinely really like. And when you do go shopping, buy the things that are like that. Figure out what your style is and know what that is when you're shopping and specifically what you're looking for, so that you're not going to be buying things that are just going to go in and out or go in and never be worn and then you're just going to get rid of a few months later. The thing I like to say to myself is slow down what's coming in so that you can spend more on less, which will last you longer. It's a huge mouthful, and it kind of comes into the concept of minimalism in the sense that if you don't buy and buy and buy and buy, you'll have more money to buy one or two things that are of much higher quality. And yeah, they'll cost you a bit more, but they will last you so much longer. When you adopt that concept with your wardrobe and your fashion, you do end up spending pretty much the same amount anyway. If you were to spend $50 on a t-shirt, I know Macklemore might shut me down for this, but this t-shirt, say it lasts you 2.5 years. You could have otherwise spent $10 on a t-shirt that's going to last you 6 months, and you have to buy 5 of them in that 2.5 years. It ends up being the same amount anyway. And I know it's never going to be that to a T with the dollar, and you may end up spending a bit more sometimes, but at the end of the day, we should be willing to spend that money. We shouldn't be complacent and okay with the fact that we're spending such low amounts of money on such low quality clothes that end up in landfill and end up destroying our environment. So my next tip for reducing your waste at no extra cost is to use up all of your produce, and I'm talking about fruit and veggies and that sort of stuff. Generally when we're cooking, we chop off the ends of things. So like we chop off the ends of bananas. We peel a banana. We chop off the ends of carrots, we chop off the ends of zucchinis, we chop out the cores of our apples, all these things that we're chopping out and tossing in the bin, when really those parts of the vegetables and the fruits are just as useful as the other things. There is a plethora of recipes and ideas and hacks and all that sort of stuff on the internet of how to use up these extra things of fruit. You know, I know that from orange peel you can add vinegar and make a cleaning spray. From the ends of your vegetables, you can put them in a stew and make soup out of them and no one would know the difference. The stalk of your broccoli, you can mash that into potato and then it's mashed broccoli and potato, and it is also just as nutrient dense. Our bodies are the most incredible system at minimizing waste because we consume everything that we can, that we need, and then what we don't need, we do get rid of, but every possible good thing that we can take out, we do. And so if we can put these things into our body, it's going to save the environment by so much because this food was made to be eaten. This is something I'm very passionate about. I have a real connection to my food and the things that I eat. And if there's anything you can take away from this video, it can be to eat more fruits. This also goes with throwing away the fruits that are bruised or slightly browned. Just chop that bit off or cook it in a different way. If you stew those apples that have gone a bit squishy, if you make a pear crumble out of the pears that have gone soft and brown and mushy, you know, there are so many things that we can do with our food to stop them from going into the bin and still make delicious, amazing, incredible meals. And this will probably end up saving you money as well because you're using more of the food that you're buying, which means you'll have to buy less food. And of course, there are some things that we just can't eat. They're beyond saving point, which brings me to my next tip, which is using a compost bin. Now, maybe you don't already have a compost bin, and in which case, if you do want to buy one, then that will cost you money. But there are other options to get around this. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure most people do, but just in case, a compost bin is essentially a place where you can put your natural scraps. The worms feed off what you put in there as long as you're putting the right things in there, and then excrete a really nutrient dense sort of dirt situation that you can put into your garden to help grow more plants. That's not a scientific definition, that's just from my knowledge, but I hope it's accurate. If it's not, please let me know. But if you don't have a compost bin, I guarantee you one of your neighbours will, or somebody in your apartment block will. There are specific versions of a compost bin that is made for when you're living in an apartment to keep on your balcony. And I'm not suggesting that every time you have a bit of rotten fruit or something, you take it to your neighbours, you go knocking on the door and say, here, can you pop it in the compost bin? But just keep a little bin within your house, or maybe out on the balcony or under the sink, which is where we keep ours, that you toss things in, and then once it's full, you can take it to your compost bin, or to your neighbour's compost bin, or to the communal compost bin. Another place to go is primary schools and kindergarten. A lot of them have compost bins because they like to show the kids the worm farms, and they like to teach about ecosystems and the environment and all that. So you can by all means contact your local primary school or kindergarten. Some of them may not take it for safety reasons, but we have a local primary school down the road and they leave it open for people to go play in on the weekends, and they have a compost bin there. So you may not even have to contact anybody. I recommend that you do, just for respect out of their property. But my point is that there are so many ways around not having a compost bin where you can find the solution and have somewhere to take your food scraps that just can't be eaten, and then stop them from going into general waste and standard landfill, because even though they are natural products, in landfill it can take them years and years to decompose. And my fifth and final tip for a free and more low waste lifestyle, and this is probably the easiest one, is to just simply say no. And I'm talking about when you go out to a cafe and you order a drink, just say, could I please have no straw with that? Or when you go shopping and you get offered a plastic bag, just say, don't worry about the plastic bag. And more often than not, the people that are serving you will be grateful for this. Occasionally they'll be taken aback and say like, oh, no straw. I've had that happen to me so little times, and so often waitresses or waiters are taking your order on an iPad and they have an option to write notes on it, and they just write no straw please, and it gets communicated through to the kitchen and it comes out with no straw. Even if you don't have a reusable straw that you bring with you, you don't need a straw to drink a drink. We have a mouth for a reason. The same goes for plastic bags. Even if you don't have your own reusable bag on you, maybe you just need to carry it for a little bit until you get to the car or until you get home. Plastic cutlery as well, you can so easily deny that and just bring the cutlery that you have from home. You don't have to buy a fancy pack or anything. All you have to do is get a knife, a fork and a spoon. Maybe keep them in a little bag that you have that you know to take with you every time you leave the house. You check for your keys, your phone, your wallet, and your cutlery bag. And if you do have a reusable straw, you can pop that in there too, which is awesome. Just don't be ashamed to say no. Anybody who is going to judge you for that is someone who hasn't yet realized the impact that our excessive waste lifestyle is taking on the earth. And maybe your statement of having no straw with your drink will help them realize that, and it'll bring them to a point where they start to think about that and start to understand it. So whether people are thanking you or judging you for your choice and your request, just know that at the end of the day, it is having a massive impact. So that's about all I have to say for this video. I guess what I wanted to bring in this video was just a bit of clarity and peace of mind. We're living in a really interesting point in time where some people are absolutely scrambling to eradicate waste from their life in every which way. And I think that that is awesome, and I have so much admiration for people who are doing that. But for some people, that just isn't feasible. So to those people, the people that are feeling totally overwhelmed and bombarded by all these statistics and facts about the damage that we're causing to our planet, but have no idea where to start with trying to help, this video is for you. I want you to know that you don't have to go out and spend a bucket load of money on all these low waste alternatives to try and make a difference. And if you can do that, then that's awesome, and I highly encourage you to do so. But if that's not an option for you, and this is just the start of your low waste journey, then know that the biggest change can come from the tiniest differences that you make in your day-to-day life. You have an enormous amount of power to make such a positive difference, and all you have to do is start, and I know that you can. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that it helped you in some way, and if you think that it may help somebody that you know, then by all means send it in their direction. If you liked it enough that it made you tap that like button, then thank you very much. I am forever grateful. And if you liked it so much that you feel inclined to subscribe, then I will love you forever. I hope that you are having an absolutely magnificent day and that you continue to do so. Thank you very much for watching.